Public event, late 1980s, somewhere in Europe. A young boy holds Michael Jackson's hand in front of a massive crowd. The photographer doesn't ask permission. He just moves in, camera 6 inches from the child's face. You can see it in the frame. The boy's eyes, the way he's looking at the lens, the way his small hand grips Michael's tighter. The crowd watches like it's normal, like this is just what happens when you're near Michael Jackson. The photographer gets his shot. The boy's face is everywhere by morning. Magazines, newspapers, television broadcasts across 12 countries. Michael remembers this moment for the rest of his life. 15 years later, when he has his own children, he thinks about this photograph. About invasion disguised as access. About a child who didn't choose to be famous, standing there holding a stranger's hand while cameras document every second. That's when the protocols begin. That's when the masks appear. That's when bodyguards get new instructions nobody in the industry has ever heard before. Between 2003 and 2009, Michael Jackson lived like a fugitive in his own country. He owned Neverland Ranch, but couldn't walk down a street without causing a riot. 3 children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, always masked in public, always surrounded by rotating shifts of bodyguards. The man who'd earned over $400 million from Thriller alone couldn't take his kids to a normal restaurant. The math was simple and brutal. A single clear photograph of an unmasked Jackson child could sell for $100,000 or more. Bill Whitfield and Javon Beard became MJ's permanent security detail in 2006, both trained in executive protection, both former law enforcement. They quickly learned Michael's primary rule. His children's faces were never to be visible, not even at home when strangers were present. The paparazzi economy had turned his family into a commodity. But here's what nobody understood at the time. Those 3 children had never eaten at a regular restaurant, never attended a public school, never walked freely down a sidewalk without masks and bodyguards forming a human wall around them. Michael kept his black glove in the car at all times. "Reminds me what fame costs," he told Whitfield once. The protection protocols were about to get more extreme, because of one incident nobody saw coming. December 2008, LAX Airport. A network of freelance photographers began systematic surveillance of Michael Jackson's movements through Los Angeles. One photographer in particular, we'll call him Ramon Diaz, specialized in what the industry called accidental contact photos. His method was elegant and effective. Create a situation where the celebrity or their family member had to react, then capture the reaction. Fear sold. Anger sold. Confusion sold 3 times better than a standard paparazzi shot. Diaz had already used this technique successfully on Brad Pitt's children, Tom Cruise's daughter. The resulting images commanded premium prices because they showed something real breaking through the celebrity armor. TMZ, X17, and a dozen independent agencies were all bidding aggressively for the Holy Grail, an unmasked Jackson child. The bounty kept climbing. By early 2009, some agencies were quietly offering $200,000 for the right shot. Diaz spent 6 weeks mapping patterns. He discovered that MJ's children attended a private art class in Beverly Hills every Tuesday afternoon. He photographed the building from multiple angles, timed the bodyguards' movements, noted which exits they preferred. What Diaz didn't know, Michael's security team had already spotted him at 3 different locations. They had counter-surveillance protocols running in the background. February 2009. Holmby Hills rental house. Michael Jackson pulled Bill Whitfield aside into a private room. He placed his black leather glove on the table between them. "This means priority 1, he said. My children." The new protocol was simple and radical. If anyone made physical contact with his children, anyone, bodyguards were authorized to use necessary force. Whitfield later recalled the exact phrasing. He said, "I don't care about lawsuits, I care about them being safe." Michael explained something Whitfield had suspected, but never heard spoken aloud. His own childhood had been stolen by fame. Photographers screaming his name since he was 5 years old. Strangers grabbing at him in airports, hotels, restaurants. He remembered every incident, carried them like scars. "My children won't live that way," he said, "even if it means headlines." The contract amendment was drafted within 48 hours. Bodyguards would be indemnified for any actions taken while protecting the children. Whitfield asked the obvious question. "Even if the press is watching?" Michael's response, "Especially if the press is watching." Then Michael revealed something else. He'd been receiving threats. Notes left at Neverland, messages passed through handlers. One note had mentioned Prince by name, described his school schedule in disturbing detail. Whitfield realized this wasn't just about paparazzi. It was about something darker. March 2009, the Bodyguards created a new rotation system for public outings. Bill Whitfield always walked 3 steps ahead of the children. Javon Beard positioned himself 2 steps behind. Michael observed from the vehicle, wearing his glove even inside the car where nobody could see it. The paparazzi adapted quickly. Motorcycles for mobility, telephoto lenses from rooftops, even early model drones, though they were clumsy and obvious. One afternoon at the Grove shopping center, a photographer managed to get within 10 feet of the children. The bodyguards immediately formed a triangle formation, completely blocking camera angles. Michael did something unexpected. He exited the vehicle without authorization and walked directly toward the cameras, waving, creating an instant diversion. While every photographer pivoted to shoot him, the children were evacuated through a service entrance. The bodyguards understood what had just happened. Michael was using himself as bait, sacrificing his own image control to protect his kids. After that incident, he added a 4th bodyguard specifically for what he called redirect protocols. From a parking structure across the street, Ramon Diaz watched it all unfold. He was taking notes, timing responses, calculating angles. He realized he needed a completely different approach, something the bodyguards couldn't anticipate. April 2009, Calabasas. The children attended a friend's birthday party at a private venue. Somehow, word got out. 12 photographers showed up outside. The bodyguards arrived 30 minutes early, as always, securing the perimeter and identifying 3 separate exit routes. When the party ended, the children emerged with their masks on, following protocol. One photographer broke from the pack and approached Prince directly. He got within 5 feet before anyone could react. "Why does your dad make you wear masks?" he called out. Prince stopped walking. He was 7 years old. This was the first time a stranger with a camera had addressed him directly, speaking to him like a real person instead of just a target. Bill Whitfield intercepted in under 2 seconds, but the moment had been captured on video. The footage didn't show Prince's face. The mask stayed in place, but it showed him hesitating. That moment of confusion, that visible uncertainty in a small child's body language, sold to a tabloid for $75,000. Michael watched the footage that night in his hotel room. Whitfield said he paced for 3 hours straight, saying almost nothing. Finally, just before dawn, he called Whitfield back. "They're hunting him now," Michael said. "Not just photographing, hunting." The next morning, new protocols were issued. Bodyguards were now authorized for preemptive intervention. May 2009. Ramon Diaz finalized his plan. He'd studied the bodyguard response times obsessively, 2.4 seconds average from initial approach to physical intervention. His calculation was simple. If he was already touching the child when the bodyguards reacted, the photograph was guaranteed. The mask might slip, the child might cry. Either way, he'd have the shot that would change his career. He planned for Venice Beach, public, crowded, multiple escape routes. He even recruited a second photographer to capture from a different angle, splitting the potential profit. What Diaz didn't know: Michael's security team had been tracking him through automated license plate recognition for 3 weeks. They had photographs of him at 4 different previous locations: his car, his typical parking positions, even his preferred camera equipment. Bill Whitfield briefed Michael on the situation. "He's escalating," Whitfield said, "getting closer each time, testing our response patterns." Michael listened in silence. Then he took off his black glove and placed it on the table. "Do what you need to do," he said. The glove stayed on that table for 6 hours while they refined the new protocols. By evening, every bodyguard on the detail understood the authorization levels had fundamentally changed. Diaz was preparing for a confrontation. He had no idea he was walking into a response nobody in the paparazzi industry had ever encountered. May 15th, 2009. Final security briefing at the Beverly Hills house. Michael gathered all 6 bodyguards in rotation, closed the door, and laid out the scenario. "If someone grabs them," he said, "I want immediate physical intervention." The bodyguards exchanged glances. This violated every standard executive protection protocol they'd been trained on. You de-escalate. You remove the principal from danger. You never engage unless there's an active threat of violence. Javon Beard asked for clarification. "You mean restrain the person?" Michael shook his head. "I mean stop them, whatever that requires." Then he explained why. He'd grown up with photographers in his face since he was 5 years old, screaming his name at airports, grabbing his clothes at hotels, following him into bathrooms, chasing his car through red lights. He remembered all of it. Every violation, every moment his childhood was treated as public property. "My children won't live that way," he said quietly, "even if it means headlines, even if it means lawsuits." The twist came next. Michael revealed he'd already consulted with 3 different law firms. He was prepared to defend his bodyguards in court if necessary. He'd already set aside funds specifically for legal fees. Then he handed each guard a signed letter of authorization. Bill Whitfield folded his and put it in his pocket next to the black glove Michael had given him weeks earlier, the glove that meant Priority 1. 3 days later, Ramon Diaz made his move. May 18th, 2009, Beverly Hills sidewalk near a medical building. Prince Jackson walked between 2 bodyguards heading toward the car. Paris and Blanket were already in the vehicle with Michael. Ramon Diaz approached from a blind spot behind a parking meter. He'd positioned himself perfectly, waited for the exact moment when the bodyguard's angles created a 2-second window. He moved fast, reached out, grabbed Prince's arm, spun him toward the camera. "Just want one photo, kid." The mask shifted. For a fraction of a second, part of Prince's face was visible. Bill Whitfield's response time was measured later from security footage. 1.8 seconds from initial contact to physical intervention. Faster than he'd ever moved before. He tackled Diaz sideways while simultaneously wrapping his other arm around Prince, creating a human shield. The second bodyguard was already pulling the SUV onto the sidewalk, tires screaming, door flying open. Javon Beard had Prince inside the vehicle in 3.2 seconds total from the moment Diaz first made contact. The black glove was visible in every frame of the footage. Michael had exited the car the moment he saw movement. He stood over the photographer, said nothing, and placed his gloved hand on Prince's head through the car window. Diaz was on the ground, camera still in hand, already shouting about assault. Police arrived within 6 minutes, but the critical moment was already over. Prince was safe. The photographer was threatening lawsuits, demanding badge numbers, claiming his rights had been violated. He had no idea what he'd just triggered. Diaz was detained for 45 minutes while police reviewed the situation. Bill Whitfield calmly provided the signed letter of authorization from Michael Jackson. 3 different security cameras had captured the incident from 3 different angles. Police reviewed all of them. The footage was clear. Diaz had grabbed a minor first, made physical contact to force a photograph. When his camera was confiscated as evidence, the memory card contained over 300 photos of the Jackson children taken over 6 weeks. A surveillance record that looked less like journalism and more like stalking. TMZ broke the story within 2 hours. MJ's bodyguard attacks photographer. The headline was everywhere by nightfall. But 6 hours later, when the security footage was released, the narrative flipped completely. The video showed a grown man grabbing a 7-year-old child. It showed the child's mask shifting from the force. It showed bodyguards doing exactly what any reasonable person would want bodyguards to do. Public reaction was overwhelming and unanimous. The bodyguard had done his job. Entertainment lawyers started calling Michael's team. "You just changed security protocols industry-wide," one told him. By the end of the week, Diaz had quietly dropped his complaint. He'd watched the footage himself. He'd seen how it looked. The cameras he'd relied on for his career had documented his own miscalculation. Michael told Whitfield simply, "You did exactly what I hired you to do." The black glove went back into his pocket. The paparazzi industry responded within days. New informal codes emerged. No physical contact with celebrity children, period. Ramon Diaz was blacklisted from every major agency. TMZ banned his submissions. X17 wouldn't return his calls. His career in celebrity photography ended with that single 3-second incident. Meanwhile, Bill Whitfield became a legend in executive protection circles. Other specialists called him for advice. But then something unexpected happened. Michael received a handwritten letter from Diana Ross. Her security team wanted a formal briefing on the new protocols. Within weeks, other celebrities were restructuring their security contracts. Angelina Jolie's team requested a consultation. Will Smith's people called. Beyoncé's security director flew to Los Angeles specifically to meet with Whitfield. The Jackson protocols were becoming standard across the industry. But Michael paid a price. The tabloids ran endless stories about his paranoia and extreme parenting. Headlines asked whether he was going too far, whether his children would grow up damaged by isolation, whether his fear was rational or pathological. Michael stopped reading any press coverage. He focused entirely on rehearsals for the This Is It concert series scheduled for London. The black glove was moved from his pocket to his personal safe, stored next to his children's birth certificates. It had become a symbol of the line he'd drawn. 53 days after the Beverly Hills incident, Michael Jackson died. His bodyguards were still with his children at UCLA Medical Center, still forming a wall, still keeping the press away from their private grief. June 25, 2009. Bill Whitfield and Javon Beard maintained their posts at UCLA Medical Center while the world processed the news. Michael Jackson was dead at 50. The children arrived with their masks still on. The last thing Michael would have wanted was for them to face this moment unprotected. Outside the hospital, the paparazzi mob was estimated at over 200 photographers, camera crews, reporters. The largest gathering anyone could remember. Inside, the bodyguards formed their wall one final time, escorting the children through a private entrance, maintaining the protocols even though the man who'd written them was gone. Among Michael's personal belongings at the hospital, they found his black leather glove. Bill Whitfield was given the responsibility of delivering it to Prince. But there was something else. Tucked inside the glove was a letter, handwritten, Michael's unmistakable script. It contained instructions for his children's protection after I'm gone. The letter was specific. He recommended Bill Whitfield to Katherine Jackson for the family's security detail during custody transition. He outlined protocols for the children's continued privacy. He requested that they be allowed to keep their masks as long as they wanted them, that the choice be theirs when they were ready. The final instruction was simple. Never let them walk alone in crowds. The bodyguards continued fulfilling their contract long after Michael's death. For 3 more years, no clear photographs of the children's faces appeared in any publication. They kept their masks. They kept their privacy. They kept the space their father had fought to create. Between 2009 and 2012, the entertainment security industry fundamentally changed. The Jackson protocols became formal training modules. Physical contact with minors by photographers became prosecutable as assault in California, regardless of press credentials. The state legislature passed new laws. $5,000 fines minimum for aggressive photography involving children of public figures. Bill Whitfield retired from personal security, but continued training protective details for Angelina Jolie, Will Smith, and Beyoncé. The 3-second response became an industry-standard timing benchmark. Ramon Diaz never worked as a paparazzi photographer again. The last confirmed sighting was in 2011, working at a portrait studio in Nevada. His camera from the incident, the one confiscated as evidence, was eventually acquired by a museum mounting an exhibition on celebrity privacy rights. They called it the grab that changed everything. The exhibition included the security footage, the authorization letter Michael had signed, and testimony from bodyguards about the evolution of protection protocols. But the real change wasn't legal or professional, it was cultural. Society began recognizing that famous people's children paid a price they'd never chosen. That fame could be inherited as burden rather than privilege. That someone needed to draw a line. Michael had drawn it with a 3-second response and a willingness to face the consequences. The black glove, meanwhile, remained with Prince Jackson, stored safely, a reminder of what his father had been willing to do. 24 years old in 2024, Prince Jackson removed his father's black leather glove from his personal safe. He was scheduled to speak at a charity event focused on children's privacy rights advocacy. He decided to wear the glove. When he took the stage, those who knew the history recognized it immediately. His speech was brief. My father understood that protection isn't about hiding. It's about creating space to be human. Space to make mistakes privately. Space to grow up without every moment documented and sold. In the audience sat Bill Whitfield, now fully retired, occasionally training protective services for high-profile clients. In a later interview, he said simply, "Michael Jackson wasn't paranoid. He was right." The glove had transformed from a costume piece to a symbol, a boundary between the public icon and the private person. Prince revealed something else that day. His father had explained the security protocols to him when he was 6 years old. "You'll understand when you're older why we do this," Michael had told him. Now he understood. His father had used his own fame as a weapon to protect them, had sacrificed image control for their safety, had drawn a line and defended it knowing exactly what it would cost. The glove caught the light as Prince held it up. The same glove that had marked priority protection. Some walls aren't meant to keep people out. They're meant to keep innocence in.